Yo, what's good, man? Sorry for the delay. We got a lot of moving pieces right now going on. But thank you guys for joining me, man. Happy Monday. And welcome to another episode of the Jayson Estrera Show, where we talk about basketball, sports, and any topic that comes our way as accurate as possible. Now, today we are going to be talking about the historic weekend that was in the WNBA. But the talk of the weekend wasn't just about the stats, and we'll get into that. A'ja Wilson broke 1,000 points. She is the first player to do that. And Caitlin Clark has also set the record for points as a rookie in the WNBA. This weekend was a long weekend, man. First and foremost, combat sports. It was a massive weekend for combat sports, right? So Saturday came around, right? And there's the UFC event in Las Vegas that took place at the Sphere. And Canelo was also fighting, right? And y'all know, obviously, we just got back from vacation last week. It was just a long week. Travel day was brutal for me, at least. And my ass fell asleep. I was good. I'm over here watching. I'm like, all right, bet. We're just chilling there. Whatever, right? We're just kicking it back on a Saturday night. And my ass knocked the fuck out, dog. I was out like the light. Now, the thing about that is, now the thing about the UFC, right? It took place at the Sphere. Now, let me see if I can get some. And I'll be honest, when the actual pay-per-view started, so not the prelims, that it looked great in parts, right? Whenever they did cinematic stuff. But I'll be honest with you. When you go to a sporting event, the point of you going to that sporting event is the sport itself, right? I have trouble trying to think of graphics or visuals that would really amplify or enhance or add to whatever is going on. I don't know, maybe they could have made it look like they were at a fucking rainforest or in the middle of the Amazon or the desert. I don't know what they could have done. But for me, for the price of admission versus what the actual TVs inside the Sphere are being used for, I'll be honest with you, it would be tough for me to justify that purchase. Now, granted, it was, they're trying it. It was the first time that the UFC had done it. Maybe it can get better. Maybe they can figure something out. But in seeing that for the first time, at least for me, it looked like it would be better off in like a movie. To watch a movie, for example, like a massive movie. Concerts where they are so small, and especially if it's a band or whatnot that doesn't dance necessarily, the visuals can really do something, right? And the other thought that I had which is, with the rise of esports, would be a gaming event. Being able to have cinematic things going on in between matches, in between maps, whatever the game is. Hi, Mom. I miss you too. I love you. And so to add, for example, like the POVs of the players or what's going on with the map, those things visually, I think would do very well. It would do extremely well. And so, at the end of it, I didn't think it was a win. At this point in time, I don't see how a sporting event will thrive in that setting, because I think it almost takes away from what's going on. Right? When you go to a basketball game, a football game, anything, you go there to watch the game. You go there to watch the players and the athletes perform. You don't go there for a jumbotron show or for a performance of some kind or any of that. You go for the sport. And so outside of in between the fights, it wasn't so outside of in between the fights, I didn't love it. And it's no surprise as to why Dana White was speaking about it in sort of the way that he was, because I don't think they're going to be doing this again. Now, moving right along to Paul Pierce. Oh, hold on. I'm trying to make sure I didn't get fucking played over here. Because that looks like it was okay, so he did not reply that. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Alright, so let's get into it right here. You know what? Let's pull an audible, because I don't want to talk about some bullshit. So, let's get right into this, right? Brian Windhorst, who, had broken numerous news on the NBA, over the last couple years has become an analyst, a voice, a massive voice in the space, right? And he had this to say about Russell Westbrook. I wouldn't let him shoot any more threes ever again, quite honestly. Brian Windhorst on Russell Westbrook's three-point percentage. And for me, the part about this that's annoying, right? And a lot of people are over here going at Brian Windhorst's size and athleticism like that. That's also unnecessary. But to constantly point out Russell Westbrook's inability to shoot threes is silly. And to keep beating a dead horse, essentially. Like, you're not saying anything profound, right? For me, the thing about Russ is whenever people speak about him, it's only ever about his weaknesses, his deficiencies, the things he doesn't do well. They never want to talk about the things that he does well or the things that he's done. Of course, 3-point shooting shouldn't be his priority. It hasn't been for years. The mind-blowing thing for me when he went to LA was, speaking of LA, he went to LA and they kept ragging him about his 3-point shooting. Motherfucker, he don't shoot threes. So, why is that always the topic of conversation? Why is that always the expectation? Crazy is doing the same thing, expecting a different result. His percentage is his percentage. His strengths are his strengths. His weaknesses are his weaknesses. Why the fuck do we keep talking about it? It doesn't make sense. They don't talk about the triple doubles that much. They don't talk about he has a scoring title, right? I don't want to say he doesn't have a scoring title. Yeah. 2-time scoring leader, 3-time assist leader, back-to-back All-Star Game MVP. I mean, like, what are we talking about? And yet, everyone wants to talk about the things he does not do well. Which leads me to this next topic, right? Because Jason Whitlock is doing something very similar, right? Constantly talking about some of Caitlin Clark's deficiencies as well, right? Calling her immature, made a fool of herself last night, embarrassing performance, her lack of emotional control and hyper focus on arguing with and showing up the referees caused the Fever to lose composure and melt down. Whitlock continued, she has a well-earned reputation with the refs. No player in the WNBA spends more time whining and bickering with the refs. Last night, she took it to a new level. She behaved like a 12-year-old entitled brat. These are the things that these fucking analysts decide to use with their to do with their platform. Could she be better with her emotion? Absolutely. Are her emotions part of the reason why she's even gotten this far? Abso-fucking-lutely. You see, a lot of these analysts, they get to this point in media where they demand perfection. Because it's not that difficult to point out what someone doesn't do well. I'll be honest with you. And in order to consistently have something to say, they completely ignore the fact that with everything, with every player, there are pros and cons. there are both strengths and weaknesses. You know, do you know what we call a player that's tall, that can shoot, dribble, has a 45-inch vertical, IQ off the charts? Do you know what we call that player? We don't call that player anything because that player doesn't fucking exist. Take a Russell Westbrook. He did something that, with all the great players since Oscar Robertson, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Hakeem, David Robinson, Tim Duncan, Kobe, LeBron. We could go down the list. Everyone. We can name everyone. No one was able to do what Oscar Robertson did until Russell Westbrook. We talk about his shooting percentages. We talk about his turnovers. We talk about his inability to be a great three-point shooter. And I say, yeah, because do you know what the fuck it would look like if he didn't have those deficiencies? This shit wouldn't look real. It already didn't look real. It's funny because us gamers always get the bad rap of, oh, you take the stuff in video games into real life. Well, the fucking analysts are doing the same thing. They want shooters to become dunkers and dunkers to become shooters. Motherfucker, that's not how it works. Think about Caitlin Clark. She set the record. For rookies in points, assists, and 3-point shots made. Oh, and by the way, the assist record is also a WNBA record for the season, and she also has the single game assist record for all WNBA players, not just rookies. She had the first triple-double as a rookie, and she didn't just have the first, she had another one too. So at some point in her game, she's going to have deficiencies. Hers just so happens to be her turnovers and her emotions, which, by the way, it's subjective. If you like her and a fan of her game, it's passion. If you don't like her, oh, you're whining, you're complaining, you're being arrogant, you're being entitled. Same shit for Russell Westbrook. If you like his game, if you appreciate his game, if you like him, passion, I love it. He has a passion for the game. He's a hooper, blah, 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 blah. And if you don't like him, he's annoying, he whines, he complains too much, he's always yapping, da-da-da-da-da, he's cocky. All of those things, that's when all of those things come into play. And the way these media personalities attack these athletes, maybe it's our fault, right? Maybe we've given these analysts too much credit because they're the guys on TV with the suits on in the nice studio. You know, a lot of us growing up, we think that what they said was gold. Stupid me. I used to think that they all had relationships with players when I was growing up. But that's not the reality. These guys just sit up there and not only do they watch basketball, but they also have to watch baseball, football. They got to watch everything. So the reality about these media personalities is, even if they used to be a specialist, we could call it, in one sport, the bigger they've gotten and the more sports they've had to cover, they just have less knowledge on their sport. But they still have to talk about it. And, it reminds me of back in the day when I think it was PTI with Michael Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser. And at the end of the show, they would talk about the mistakes that they made on the segment. It was great. Something so simple that held them accountable. And they would talk about it. It would be like a thing. Because they realize when they're talking out of their ass and they say something wrong, because the reality is we're human, right? This shit happens. There's some people that try to nail us on the cross for saying something wrong, but the reality is it happens. And it's up to us to be like, yo, my bad. And correct it. We're allowed to change our way of thinking over time. But it seems like the media has slowly gone away from that. And now you have guys that are calling her a misbehaved 12-year-old entitled brat. Who the fuck does this guy think he is? So somebody got to come get these media guys in check, man. Somebody got to come do it, because they are demanding the impossible. That's what it really comes down to. They are demanding the impossible. Like, it's not reality what they're expecting. It's not. It's just not, right? People can get better at things, but some of those things are what they are, right? If you're a little bit of a hothead, you're not all of a sudden going to become Mr. Kumbaya. It would take a lot, and not everybody does that. But that hot-headedness can also get you some success, as we've seen with some of the highest athletes, the most successful athletes. And it also gets them into trouble. Everything comes with a good and a bad, you know what I'm saying? But some of these media personalities act like that shit don't exist. So at some point we need to just start acting like they don't exist. Jesus, bro. Now, to continue on this from the weekend, because where are we gonna go with first? Let's do this first. So in the closing seconds of the Fever Aces game, they had this play.
Pull, looking for Mitchell. Mitchell driving on Clark. Mitchell
Excuse me.
For the tie. Oh, it rims out. She got a great look at it, and it was halfway down.
And that was a phenomenal look.
There were 30 seconds left, and Aaliyah took the shot. Could you talk us through that possession and what you were looking for in that play?
Yeah, people know it's going to be really hard to get Caitlin a shot in those possessions. Like, we want to make sure, like, she, between her and Kelsey, you give them both options. In that play that we ran, they had a pin and they had a hammer action on the weak side. And they're going to take away something, so you just have to be ready. And AB came to me right before. She said, "Coach, do you want me to spread out to the corner three?" I said, "Be ready, because they're going to take that shooter away." And it was a great shot. It rimmed in and out. I mean, that was a great shot.
Yep.
This girl has gone and worked really hard on that game. I have a lot of confidence in her to take that shot. I mean, teams are going to scheme against Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell. They're going to do everything they can to make somebody else take that three. So it's just on us, got to find a way to get the ball in their hands and let them take it. But I was so okay with that wide open three by Leah.
And I mean, let's take a look at the play one more time, right? So Lexi Hall gets the ball off of, what is this, the inbound? Oh, yeah. So they did the inbound. She did this. They're obviously playing. They are doubling her already over here, right? Honestly, she could have dove right here and probably would have opened the shot up, but they're playing tight.
Mitchell driving on Clark.
It really was the only play in this scenario, right? And you could kill her for it, but the Fever got a great shot for arguably their second best player on the team. And to the folks that, oh, she don't shoot threes and whatnot, I get it, right? But at the end of the day, and look, they're still on her, bro. Aaliyah Boston has the shot. She is wide open. They are still on Caitlin Clark extended. The thing is this. We don't see what their practices day in and day out look like. Maybe Aaliyah Boston has been putting in a lot of time on these threes. To the point where Christie Sides and Aaliyah Boston's teammates really trusted her with that shot. I don't think anyone had a doubt that she would miss this. I'm just being honest. It's how teams function. And to Christie Side's point, they're going to play to trap Caitlin Clark. Would it have been great to give Caitlin Clark or Kelsey Mitchell an opportunity in this situation? Because you don't get a lot of these reps, right? You need to be able to experience these situations to perform better in them time and again. So that would have been nice. But now it creates this what if for these other teams, right? Because they've clinched the playoffs for like 2 weeks now. So going into it, if the game is tight, and let's say let's run this back, right? Because look at how easily this switches, right? Because like I said, she set this pick here, right? If Asia is tight right here, if Asia Wilson is tight body on body and she could slip right here, that's a bucket. But again, they understood what was going to happen, and that's why they kind of played it out like that. And so, you know, they learned from this. Hopefully they get better from it. I'm sure Clark, Boston, and Mitchell gained something out of this. And, you know, you move forward. I think the criticism on Christie Sides has been a little OD. It's been a little bit OD with that. Now, since the drama's not over.
Here was the foul, and at least live, this one was a little puzzling. Let's see if we can figure it out from underneath the basket. Here was the foul.
So they called offensive loose ball foul on Caitlin Clark, or a loose ball foul on Caitlin Clark. Now, if we're being honest, and she did defend it, but we could see how, at least I could see how this got called a foul on Caitlin Clark. And people are saying the defender tried to fall on her afterwards in an apparent attempt to cause injury. What the fuck are you guys talking about? Listen, they could have let this go. They could have called it. It really could have gone either way. But this idea that Christie Sides needs to defend Caitlin on everything, it's ridiculous. Yeah, to be quite frank, it's ridiculous. And so, yeah, like I don't agree with the Christie Sides, with the shit that she's been getting lately. With regards to these two topics in particular, right? It doesn't make sense. Like I said, I know that it doesn't make sense to me how in the beginning of the season she was getting, it was her fault for all of the shit that was happening. They have success, she gets absolutely no credit. And then they start losing again and she starts getting blamed. Like come on now. Like let's be honest here, right? Like you got to call this shit how it is. She has to pick and choose when she gets into these arguments. And oh, by the way, they won that game against Dallas. But you know, everybody got some shit to say, bro. Everybody has some shit to say. Now, with the technical fouls, with the technical foul conversation, because
with me,
Caitlin Clark had picked one up on Saturday, I believe, against the Las Vegas Aces, and so we'll check that out in just a second right here.
From the line, 91%. Tiffany Hayes, who really packed a punch off the bench, and there's the second foul on Clark. And they gave her a technical. And this is a similar situation.
So we're talking about technical fouls. And to be quite honest, I don't like technical fouls, because it gives a lot of power to the referee, right? They expect you as the player, as the athlete, to be composed, but the referee can give out a technical foul out of emotion because you said something that they didn't like. That's where it's a problem. And in Caitlin Clark's situation, right? She's had a number of technical fouls where she didn't say shit to the referee. She's reacting out of frustration with herself. And you have people like Jason Whitlock calling her a brat. But then if you play without passion, you get called out for it either, and they say you don't give a fuck about your sport. There is no in between. And here's the other part of it, right? When they talk about the technical fouls, you would think that Caitlin Clark would be first. But that's not the case. I mean, look at all of these top players in the WNBA that are on this list. Some of the best. Kelsey Plum is right there with 5. Arike right there. Kalia Copper right there. So, with her, it's an issue. She's being a brat. She's complaining too much. Excuse me. But no one talks about all these other players. Everyone plays with a fire. Everyone plays with a passion. Isn't that what we want? But again, a lot of people like to pick and choose when things are or are not applicable. When the facts are right there, right in front of y'all. Right? There are other great players in the league that are on this list. That's not to say that this is okay. But it's also to say not to overreact. And like I said, this is a game that's played with a lot of emotion. These women, these players have invested a lot of time, effort, and equity into this. Their lives. So to tell them to calm down, imagine someone tells you to calm down. Get the fuck out of my face. That'd be everybody. But, you know, some folks want to pretend like that's not reality. So, yeah, go get yourself checked, dog. Now, to go to the other end of historic weekend. Let's take a look at we're gonna take a look at A'ja Wilson making history. All right, we'll get to this right here.
Space. She was and attempted. Wilson is tiled in. This recent surge by the Ace and racking those.
Let's get to the end.
Season. Wilson 4 away from 1,000. Make it 2.
Trying to get some history right now.
Here's Wilson for 1,000. Her moment after the Olympic gold medal in Paris, you'd get the reference.
And Christie goes for the steal, doesn't get it. A'ja been killing him at the mid-post all game, stops on the dime, and scores it. And everyone, point guard in the background, jumping up.
And A'ja Wilson making history, breaks 1K points. The first player to do so in the WNBA. Now, it is important to note, too, that they have added games. But, you know, what they'll just keep. They used to be 28 games and play 34, 36, and now 40. So all they're going to do is, you know, match what the paces look like. Nonetheless, she had to go out and get those buckets. So kudos to A'ja Wilson. What a phenomenal season she's had. And she seems to be getting better. She is damn near mastered the mid-range game already. Shooting threes. I mean, there's nothing that she cannot do, right? No. So now, when you look at such a historic year that she's had, probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, individual seasons by a WNBA player ever. It leads you to ask, how do you top this season, right? Because will she be forced to have to get 1,000 points again next year? She had a massive jump from last year to this season, and I've already pointed out a lot of that I think had to do with their injuries. So to recreate that situation again would be difficult. But if they're to continue winning as a team, she keeps dominating, has big games, 40-point, 50-point games, even if she's not averaging 28. I think she can still have a season that obviously matches this one. And I think the expectation goes up, and it's going to keep going up because now we've seen what she could do. And people are always going to say, well, give me more, give me more, give me more. And like I said, I think she keeps getting better. And I'll be honest with you, I think she's capable. And if they don't win a championship this year, because they have struggled quite a bit, New York looks strong. Talk about added motivation going into next season, right? So I think all of those things put together can create this storm for A'ja Wilson to keep dominating. And you put on top of that, Caitlin Clark is coming next year. Even better than this year. You know, Cameron Brink was leading the league in blocks. Angel Reese rebounds. Paige Beckers is coming. I mean, so many things are happening, right? And it'll be one of those where A'ja Wilson is still in her prime getting it. And all of the competitors coming in, I think, will push her to be even better. And so I do think that she could top this season. She don't necessarily have to score more points, but I do think she has some big performances. Numbers are similar. Yeah, I think she could definitely give it another run. But this year is definitely going to be one for the ages. I can't wait to see what accolades they actually give her. MVP looks like a lock. We'll see what else she gets out of it, though. We'll see. Maybe she gets Defensive Player of the Year. It's just, what a year. What a fucking year. Now, we just saw right there, right? A'ja Wilson with the fadeaway. And I've always wondered this, right? Because I know a lot of people have a certain take on what is the most unstoppable move in NBA history. Now, I think something that would have to qualify it, though, is that it has to be a move that gets to a bucket. So even crossovers, I think, would count. Certain dribble moves, I think, would count. Obviously, on the top of the list would be the Kareem skyhook, which is what everyone likes to talk about, right? Now a lot of people like to do the LeBron hand, the fucking right hand, the look at the hand shot. There's the Kevin Durant hang dribble. His hang dribble, which, he got from T-Mac. T-Mac was the original that I remember seeing that all the time. You have the Harden double step back, right? Back in the day, Wade's step back going to the left was as money as it could have been for anybody. You have the Harden Euro, the Ginobili Euro. Honestly, I think if there was a move for Bron outside of that, his spin move going to the basket has to be some of the greatest ever. He can go left or right? His spin move. We have the Melo jab step. I think that shit is unbelievable. The Melo jab step is godlike. The Steph Curry teardrop floater, right? Tony Parker's was also unbelievable. The Dream Shake. I mean, there's just so many different moves, right? If I had to pick one, though, I understand why people say the skyhook, the Kareem skyhook. I think it's the Michael Jordan mid-range fadeaway. I'll explain why. Fadeaway being off the post or off the pull-up, right? They're both kind of the same thing to me. I say it's the most unstoppable move in NBA history because mastering that move can make you great. I think that's what makes it unstoppable. The skyhook, we've only seen Kareem do that. And if we're being honest, you can only have that if you're a super tall, lanky, 7-foot tall center. It's the only way you can have that shot. You can't do it as a guard. You would look stupid. So it's reserved for like 7-footers only. Meanwhile, the mid-range fadeaway, we have seen point guards, shooting guards, small forwards, power forwards, center. We've seen on so many levels different players become great with that one move. And that to me is what makes it unstoppable, because we've seen, like I said, time and again, if you master that move, not if you could do it, if you master it, you can put your hat and be a great NBA player. Now we're talking Chris Paul when I was growing up, great midi. Sean Livingston. I mean, he's not a great, but he's really known for it, right? Kawhi, DeMar, Kobe, obviously, Melo, T-Mac, Kevin Garnett, Dirk. He put his own spin on it. He said one-legged, motherfucker. He's like, this is my shit, one-legged. And so to me, that's why I give the Michael Jordan mid-range fadeaway is the greatest, most unstoppable move ever. Because if you can master it at different levels, different heights, you can be great in the NBA. Now, we are talking about what top 4 team will fall this season. We're talking the East and the West. So for the West, we have Thunder at number 1, the Nuggets at 2, Timberwolves at 3, and the Clippers at 4. For the East, we have Boston number 1, Knicks at 2, Bucks at 3, Cleveland at 4. Let's start with the West. I think it's safe to say that the Clippers are out. I'll be honest with you. I'm not saying that they're not going to make the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to be a top 4 seed in this coming season. Excuse me. These other 3, I could fully see being in it. My question mark would really be the Thunder. It really depends on what their team really looks like, how they're kind of rolling. We've seen the Nuggets year in and year out. The Thunder, I'd be curious as to how they respond this season, right? For the East, I think Cleveland is getting the fuck up out of there. I think the Bucks get better this season. The Knicks get better this season. The Boston Celtics are the Boston Celtics. I think either Philly will creep up into this spot, or maybe Orlando will swap with 4. But I think Cleveland is out of there. The other 3, I think, are pretty set. But yeah, so that's what I think is how I think it's gonna fall out for this upcoming year. Let me know what y'all think, man. What do y'all think? How do you guys think this is gonna break down? How is it gonna shake out? But yeah, man. All right. Let's see. Let's go last topic right here. Let's go last topic right here.
Media deals, it's been a long process, it's ongoing, and we hope to wrap it up, in the relative near term. And then we will turn to expansion. But by turning to expansion, it doesn't mean that we're going to announce that now we're ready to add teams. It means that there'll be a committee of NBA governors that will focus on it. There's clearly markets out there that are very interested, and we'll run through a process. But I actually am looking forward to that. I think that the league, it's not preordained that we will expand this time, but I know there's an enormous amount of interest out there. And to me, yes, there are wealthy individuals, institutions that would like to invest and buy NBA teams, but I think it's on the league to look holistically. There's the dilution, of course. Let's just say we're expanding by 2 teams. What does that mean for talent? I feel great about where the talent is right now in the league, but those players have to come from somewhere. If you add 2 teams, how does it work geographically? What will it mean for growing the game? At some point, we'd like to look outside the United States in addition to Canada. This may not be the right moment to do that, but I'm thinking long-term as well. So I'm actually very excited about turning to that process, but first we just got to be finished with it.
So he said a lot right there. Vancouver has been thrown out there a lot. He did say in addition to Canada. Seattle has been thrown out there. Las Vegas has been thrown out there. So for those that are yelling international, because I saw a whole post about it, I don't see the NBA expanding internationally. Because in terms of daily operations, it does not make sense. Planning for that team would be a fucking nightmare. Imagine having them have to fly 10 hours just to get there, and then that team having to go back and forth. It would be a nightmare. So it would have to be relatively local, or within Canada, or like a Mexico team, or something along those lines. But he brought up something else that was really important there, right? He loves the talent right now, right? But that's already a team. But the Toronto Raptors is already a team. He said he's looking in addition to Canada. So some people were saying, yeah, where the fuck is this? Yeah, some people are saying Vancouver is one of their targets, but like I said, a much bigger topic I think here that some folks are kind of missing on is the talent. If you add 2 teams, that's 2 15-man rosters that you now have to fill with NBA talent, legitimate NBA talent. Now, obviously, there's players out there that people have been calling for years now. But can't throw a bunch of 30-year-olds on an expansion team. You got to have some young talent in there to go along with it, right? So, yeah, I'm just saying that's a name that a lot of people have been throwing out. There's been a lot of talks about teams going back to some of these cities like Seattle. And I think that before you explore internationally, right, out of the country, that it would be in their best interest to look at teams within the United States or close by. Because, like I said, travel and all of those things, scheduling, it would be a nightmare for these teams. But I think, to Adam Silver's point, the bigger issue, too, would be the talent pool. Right? Some teams already have trouble developing their talent as it is. Now having to throw 2 other teams in there to just bottom feed, essentially, so that the top teams can kind of just beat up on these other guys. I don't know. Maybe it'll be cool in the sense of, the top players are going to go off against these teams. But outside of that, an expansion right now, I don't see it being extremely beneficial for the NBA. I'll be honest. I think they're in a good spot. They're putting a bunch of things into play, like the play-in tournament, the play-in games. The Commissioner's Cup and the play-in tournament. It's a lot of moving pieces right now. Adding 2 other teams to that, I personally think, wouldn't do much for the league. But what the fuck do I know? So that'll do it for me for now, man. Thank you guys for joining me as always. I really appreciate it. Before I go, please like, comment, subscribe, all that good shit. It really helps the channel out. We are trying to take this to the moon. And as always, y'all could have been anywhere on the internet, but y'all were here with me, and I really, really fucking appreciate that. So thank you, man. I'll see y'all later. Have a great rest of y'all day. I'll see y'all tomorrow, man. Thank you. Peace, 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 peace. Later.